Have you ever felt like you're going through the motions of life, checking all the boxes, but still feeling nothing? Like there's this weird hollowness inside that you can't explain, and you're thinking, wait, am I depressed? Here's the thing, you might not be. If you've been feeling empty lately, I want you to know that what you're experiencing is more common than you think. And contrary to what you might believe, this feeling of emptiness isn't always depression. In fact, psychologists have identified several distinct psychological states that create this sensation of hollowness, and understanding the difference can completely change how you approach feeling better. In this video, we're going to explore why you might be feeling empty even when your life looks fine on paper. We'll break down the psychological mechanisms behind this feeling, help you identify what's really going on, and most importantly, give you practical tools to reconnect with yourself. Because here's what matters. Recognizing the real cause of your emptiness is the first step to actually filling that void. Let's dive in. 1. You're living on autopilot. So first, let's talk about what psychologist Viktor Frankl called the existential vacuum. This is when you're moving through life without any real sense of purpose or meaning. You wake up, go to work, scroll through your phone, go to bed, and repeat. Everything feels mechanical. You're not necessarily sad, you're just disconnected. Your brain is designed to seek meaning and purpose. When you don't have that, it creates this sense of emptiness because there's nothing anchoring your experiences. You're physically present, but psychologically absent, and that creates the exact hollow feeling you've been experiencing. 2. You've achieved your goals. Sometimes emptiness shows up right after you get what you wanted. Psychologists call this the arrival fallacy, the belief that reaching a goal will fundamentally change how you feel. You achieve the thing, feel great for maybe a week, and then that familiar emptiness creeps back in. Your brain releases dopamine during the pursuit of goals, not just the achievement. So when you're working towards something, your brain is engaged and energized. But once you arrive, that neurochemical motivation disappears. And if you don't have another meaningful pursuit lined up, you're left with this void. This matters because we often mistake emptiness for dissatisfaction with our achievements, when really it's about the absence of forward momentum. Your brain needs something to reach for, not just things to have. 3. You're disconnected from your emotions. You might be feeling empty because you've actually shut down your emotional system. This isn't depression's classic sadness, it's what therapists call emotional numbing or alexithymia. You're not feeling sad, you're not feeling anything. When you experience prolonged stress, anxiety, or even just constant busyness, your nervous system can shift into a protective mode where it dampens all emotions, both negative and positive. It's like your brain decided, okay, feeling things is overwhelming, so let's just not. The problem is, you can't selectively numb emotions. When you shut down the painful ones, you shut down joy, excitement, and connection too. Emotional numbing feels like emptiness because emotions are literally what make life feel full. Without them, experiences wash over you without leaving any impression. You're experiencing life in grayscale. 4. Your relationships lack depth. You can be surrounded by people and still feel profoundly empty. That's because it's not about quantity of relationships, it's about quality. Psychologists call this a connection deficit, and it's one of the most common causes of that hollow feeling. Researchers call this authentic self-expression. When you're constantly performing, people-pleasing, or showing only the acceptable parts of yourself, you never experience genuine connection. And genuine connection is literally a psychological need, like food or sleep. Without it, you feel empty even in a crowded room. This matters because your brain can tell the difference between real intimacy and social performance, and when all your relationships exist at a surface level, that deep human need for belonging goes unmet, creating that persistent empty feeling.
All right, so you've identified what might be causing your emptiness. Here's what you can actually do about it. The purpose audit exercise. Set aside 30 minutes this week to write down 3 things. What matters to me? What am I curious about? What would I do if I knew I couldn't fail? Don't overthink it, just brain dump. Then pick one thing from that list and commit to exploring it for the next month. Sign up for a class, start a small project, or volunteer for a cause you care about. This works because it gives your brain that forward momentum it's craving. You're not trying to find your life's ultimate purpose, you're just giving yourself something meaningful to move toward. The Depth Conversation Challenge. Once this week, have a real conversation with someone you trust. Share something you're actually struggling with, worried about, or excited about, not just what you did this weekend. Start with, "Can I share something real with you?" This works because vulnerability creates connection, and connection fills emptiness in a way surface interactions never can. When you open up, others typically do too. Reset your achievement approach. Instead of setting outcome goals like get promoted or lose 20 pounds, set process goals. Learn one new skill each month, or move my body 4 times a week. Identify one area of your life and define success by the actions, not the results. This keeps your brain engaged in ongoing growth rather than the boom-bust cycle of achievement and emptiness. Schedule aliveness activities. These aren't necessarily fun things. They're things that make you feel present and engaged. For some people, that's hiking. For others, it's cooking a complex recipe or having a debate about something they're passionate about. Identify what makes you feel most alive and schedule it like an appointment, once a week minimum. This works because these activities bypass the numbing and reconnect you with direct sensory and emotional experience.
Look, feeling empty doesn't mean you're broken, and it doesn't necessarily mean you're depressed. Sometimes it means you've disconnected from purpose, shut down your emotions as a coping mechanism, achieved without planning what comes next, or surrounded yourself with shallow connections instead of deep ones. The good news? Each of these has a pathway back to feeling full again. It takes intentionality, and it won't happen overnight, but understanding what's actually happening is half the battle. Start with just one of these practices. Notice what shifts. And remember, if you're struggling and these tools aren't enough, reaching out to a mental health professional is always a valid and important step. Which of these resonated most with you? Are you living on autopilot, experiencing post-achievement emptiness, emotionally numbed, or disconnected from deep relationships? Let me know in the comments. I read every single one. And if you found this helpful, do like and subscribe to support the channel. You're not alone in feeling this way, and more importantly, you don't have to keep feeling this way.